All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Judge Law, and we're going to begin with our Fulton State Expedited Accusation Calendar. This is a calendar in which individuals were recently arrested and booked at the Fulton County Jail. Soon after, the prosecutor, which is the Solicitor General's Office of Fulton County, has already accused these cases. Hence, this would be the defendant's initial appearance before the state court of Fulton County. When I address each of your cases, I will let you know your new accusation number, the charges brought against you. I'll appoint an attorney to represent you if you cannot afford one, and set a bond in your case. If a bond has already been set by the warrant judge, we may perhaps consider modifying that bond. Some of you will also get a court date where relevant. If you are charged with one or more misdemeanor offenses, please remember your rights, specifically your right to remain silent. Anything you say about the facts of your case during this Zoom recorded session, your statements can and will be used against you. You have a right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one, one will be appointed to represent you. All right. Miss Grace, our reset date is still November 3rd?
Yes, Judge, and I put it in the chat.
Appreciate it. Thank you. All right, we will begin with courtroom 2. Who do we have, please?
Good afternoon, Judge Law. We have position number 6, Mr. Herron, and he has a private attorney.
Oh, okay, I see him. Thank you. All right, counsel, good afternoon. May I have your name, please?
Joel Pugh on behalf of Mr. Herron.
All right, that was P-U-G-H?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Mr. Pugh, your client, James Herron, is accused of simple battery in case number 22 CR 007-099J.
Judge, I apologize. Can you repeat the accusation number for me? I'm sorry.
Certainly, it's 22 CR 007-099J. Mr. Herron is charged with simple battery allegedly occurring on October 21st, 2022 in Fulton County, Georgia. Mr. Herron, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is Mr. Pugh. And Mr. Tucson, may we have Mr. Herron's pre-trial record?
Second arrest. Last was 04 battery, simple battery, dismissed.
All right. Ms. Sowry is the prosecutor in this case. What is your bond recommendation?
Yes, Your Honor. The state's recommendation in this case is a $3,000 surety bond. That's with conditions of no contact with the victim, whose name is Lauren Baker, a stay away from the incident location, the Bobby Dodd Stadium at 177 North Avenue in Atlanta, a one-day anger awareness course, and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons while on bond. Your Honor, briefly, officers responded to this incident location. They spoke with the victim, who stated that she stepped on the defendant's coat by mistake, and that's when he pushed her off and caused her to fall to the ground. And Your Honor, despite this mistake, the defendant continued to follow the victim, yelling at her. And Your Honor, there was a witness to corroborate this story. When the officer spoke with the defendant, he stated merely that he exchanged words with security. He mentioned nothing of this incident. Your Honor, we've heard from pretrial that the defendant does have one arrest that was a simple battery family violence out of Cobb that was dismissed. However, due to this incident itself, the defendant does present a risk of being a danger to the community, as this incident was unprovoked.
All right, thank you. Mr. Pugh, what is your counter?
Judge, I did represent him on that in Cobb. It was dismissed. I thought it was restricted. I know the state can still see it though. He lives just north of Rome, Georgia. He's 54 years old. He has no convictions. Of course, we have a different story, respectfully, than the state has at this point. He owns a business. He's an engineer. He had graduated from Georgia Tech. You're born and raised in Georgia as well, correct? Lived in Georgia his entire life. Owns a house, and I'm gonna say that it's Armurchie, Georgia, which is just north of Rome. And you own a business. How many employees do you have? He has about right at 50 employees. He is not a flight risk. He's not a danger to the community. He will come back. I would just ask for a sign your own bond on the case, Judge.
Bond is set at $3,000. It's a signature bond through pretrial services. Mr. Heron will report to pretrial once a month, which is in downtown Atlanta. He will have no further contact with Lauren Baker, which means stay 200 yards away from her. Do not communicate with her in person, through a phone, through a computer, through a third party, or on social media. He's also required to stay away from the Bobby Bart Stadium until further order of the court. His next court date will be set to him at his current address. And Mr. Pugh, I do see you filed a motion for entry and a motion for discovery. If you want to waive arraignment and have a bench trial in this case, we can have that scheduled on our JO calendar. You just need to contact the Criminal Clerks Division. But I have a Gazelle Due location in, I'm not even going to pronounce the city, so beginning with A,
Armurchie, Georgia.
Armurchie, thank you. Is that the correct address?
Yes, that is his address. It's 480 or 450. 450. Yes, ma'am. That is his correct address.
Okay, very good. Anything else, Mr. Pugh?
Can I ask just one or two quick questions?
Yes, sir.
So a signature bond, he does not have to post any cash.
Correct. He will go through pretrial services orientation. They will advise him of the scheduled dates that he has to report. He has to make sure he complies with the conditions of the bond, that he does not get arrested again. If he gets arrested again for any other matter, the signature bond will be revoked. He'll be back in jail on a pretrial warrant, and a surety bond will be issued.
All right, Judge, thank you so much. You have a blessed day, and hope to see you again soon. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir. You too. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Judge Law, I just walked in. This is Preswell. What was your bond amount?
It is 3,000 signature bond through pretrial.
Thank you.
All right, no problem.
I can talk to him privately for a moment.
Yes.
Thank you.
Come on, Mr. Mayor. You can have a seat in the chair. And, you can just stand over there. You're welcome. Position 2, Carter. Oh, actually, okay.
We good?
Yes, we're good.
This is State versus Brianna Nicole Carter, case number 22 CR 007-086J. Ms. Carter is accused of theft by taking from October 16, 2022. Ms. Carter, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is going to be Ms. Wanda Gant. Do you see Ms. Gant on the screen? Ms. Gant, if you wave your hand, please. All right, Mr. Tucson, I understand this is her first arrest. Would I be correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Sari, is there a recommendation for a signature bond? Stay away from the incident location and victim?
Your Honor, yes, there is a recommendation for a $2,500 signature bond through pretrial. Stay away if she's no longer employed, and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons. Your Honor, the incident took place at Walmart located at 5200 Windward Parkway in Milton. The defendant is, or she was, an employee of Walmart, and on the incident date, she did take clothing, cosmetic items, and hair accessories from the store, and she did not present a valid receipt. So that is the state's recommendation due to her limited or her no history.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Gant, unless you have any objection, I'm setting bond at $2,000. It is a signature bond through pretrial services to stay away from all Walmart stores, every single one of them, especially the one at Windward Parkway. And her next court date will be sent to her at her address, which is, I'm not announcing the whole address. I just want to confirm. I have a Parkside Close. Is that correct?
Correct, Your Honor, and no objections.
All right, thank you. Her next court date will be sent. It's a signature bond. She'll be required to report to pretrial once a month. And if she gets arrested again or she trespasses on any Walmart locations, she risks the chance of losing her signature bond. Please keep in touch with the court, and good luck, Ms. Carter.
Thank you. You're done.
Next case, please.
Position 1, Mr. Burke, this is the sign language case.
All right, thank you.
And Your Honor, we will need to be placing a breakout. I need to interview Mr. Burks.
All right. Ms. Kim and Ms. McLeod. Ms. McLeod, who are your clients?
No, if that's the case, we can just do his case. I'll try to see if I can do him in another courtroom.
All right, thank you, Francois.
Okay, so,
Miss Burrell and Mr. Johnson, Your Honor.
Say the first name.
Mr.
Burrell,
Johnson?
No.
Burrell, yes,
B-U.
yes.
I don't have a Burrell on the calendar.
사모님, 그 가게를
I'm sorry.
비워두면
Somebody speaking, Miss Kim, I can hear you. Luckily, I don't speak Korean, but
I
I could hear
apologize.
you. Okay,
Sorry about that.
no problem. Thank you.
next judge is position 4, Farrell.
Okay, thank you. 4. Did I miss a page here? Oh, I do apologize, Miss McLeod. Did you say Farrell?
Burrell, yes, yes.
Oh,
ma'am.
Farrell. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. Yes. Miss Farrell is on case number 22 CR 007-098E. Ms. Farrell is accused of simple battery domestic violence from May 23rd, 2020. Ms. Farrell, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Maureen McLeod. Do you see Ms. McLeod on the screen? Ms. McLeod, if you could just wave. There we go. All right, okay, she sees you, good. All right, Mr. Tucson, I understand this is a first arrest as well.
Yes.
All right, Ms. Sowry, what is the state's recommendation, please?
Yes, Your Honor, the state's recommendation is a $2,000 surety bond with conditions of no contact with the cross defendant. His name is Demetrius Farrell, a third-party transfer of the child or any children, 1-day anger awareness, and stay away from the incident location, as well as no drugs, alcohol, or weapons. Your Honor, this was a dual arrest case. You did actually hear the cross defendant's case. That's case number 21CR002444F.
21 CR, I'm sorry, repeat that.
002444F, as in Frank.
Okay.
And this incident took place at Kroger, located at 725
Mhm.
Ponce de Leon Avenue. The cross defendant in this case, he was at the incident location. He got off the elevator, and security saw the defendant on camera pushing the cross defendant. They got into a pushing match, and altercation had to be broken up by security. Your Honor, in the dual arrest or in the cross defendant's case, you gave that defendant a $2,000 surety bond, which is why the state is asking for it to be the same in this case. And with those conditions that were already stated, nothing further.
All right, thank you. Ms. McLeod, is your client still married with this individual?
Yes, Your Honor, they're still married, but they do not live together. They're in a bona fide state of separation, she tells me.
Okay,
And she has not been in contact with him since the incident, Your Honor, which happened approximately a year or more ago.
oh, more
My
than 2
client does have an 8-year-old child, which she shares with the cross defendant, and she tells me that since the incident, they have been transferring the child for parenting time through a third party, and she wants that to continue because she doesn't want to have any contact with the cross defendant. I also want the court to know that my client is currently pregnant and she needs to get out of jail. She's never been arrested before, Your Honor. She's 25 years old and she is gainfully employed. Therefore, I would ask the court to give her a signature bond so she can get out of jail, take care of her child for whom she is the primary caretaker, Your Honor.
Bond is set at 2,000. It is a signature bond through pretrial services. She will report to pretrial once a month. No contact with Demetrius Farrell. Third-party exchange, custody exchange allowed. Stay away from the, well, you know, I don't know how, this was more than 2 years ago, so I'm not going to put a stay away. If she's still shopping at the Kroger and Ponce de Leon, which is a very nice Kroger, she's allowed to do so. No illegal drugs, no weapons, and no firearms. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Judge.
All right. Yes, Rick, as soon as the Deputy Francois places the defendant in a separate courtroom, we will be able to place you, the defendant, and his attorney in a separate breakout so they can confer through you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So I'm just waiting for that accommodation to take place.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Thank you.
Your Honor, we're gonna go to position number 8, Mr. Sidney Johnson.
Thank you.
And Your Honor, that's a dual arrest case with position 5, if they can be heard together.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
Your Honor,
Yes, Ms. Gann?
position 5 is at South Annex.
That, I don't know, South Annex, Miss Milton? Is Ashley Folge available? Okay, so Ms. Sari, I'm just going to proceed with position, what was it, Sidney Johnson, is that correct?
Yes.
That's correct.
This is Sidney Johnson, case number 22 CR 007-096C. Mr. Johnson's accused of simple battery domestic violence, and this is from allegedly October 19th, 2022. Mr. Johnson, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Miss Maureen McLeod. Any priors, Mr. Toussaint?
Which one is this, Sydney or Quindarius?
This is position 8, Sydney.
Sydney. This is second
Sydney
arrest.
Isaiah Johnson.
Yes. Second arrest, 2019 misdemeanor possession of marijuana.
All right.
That's all.
Wow, we're still arresting folks for that? Okay. Ms. Sowry, what's your recommendation for Mr. Johnson?
Yes, Your Honor, the state's recommendation is a $2,000 surety bond with conditions of no contact with the cross defendant, a stay away from the incident location, which is 490 Glen Street in Atlanta, and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons. Your Honor, this is a dual arrest. The cross defendant in this case is Ashley Folks. Officers responded to this incident location regarding a dispute. This defendant stated that he came home and the cross defendant was asleep, and he came home and turned on all the lights. An argument ensued, and that's when the cross defendant picked up a glass ornament and began to hit him in the back. The cross defendant told officers that the verbal incident did take place the same way, except that the defendant hit her and pushed her head up against the front door.
Okay, so it's yeah. Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, I just want to make sure you can hear me. I'm not sure why I'm frozen, but yes, I've read the warrant, and I've heard your comments about the $2,000 surety bond.
Correct.
Miss McLeod, I'm
Yes,
actually going to set a 2,500 signature bond through pretrial services. And on both cases, I don't believe, let me think, yeah. And the only question I have is Mr. Folds, Mr. Johnson available to stay elsewhere?
Yes, Your Honor, I did speak to him on that. He tells me that he can stay with his dad, and that is what his plan is.
All right, so it's 2,500 signature bond through pretrial services. No further contact with Ashley Folch until further order of the court. He needs to stay away from 490 Glen Street in Atlanta, Georgia. He may return to that location one time only to retrieve his first personal belongings. That one-time visit must be in the company of a police officer And we will send him notice of his next court date to his new address. So within 30 days of being released, he must update the court with his new address by visiting the clerk's division at 160 Peachtree Street.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. I'm going to take a brief recess to correct my Zoom and we'll be with you shortly.
Your Honor, before you go, may I be excused?
Oh, I'm good now. I'm good now. I'm good now. So I'm sorry, Ms. McLeod, what did you say?
I was saying that my business before the court today is concluded. May I be excused?
Yes, Ms. McLeod, you have a great weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. Same to you.
All right. Next case, please. Who do we have, please?
I'm sorry, Your Honor, I was on mute. We have position number 3, Reginald Castell.
All right. Reginald Dion Castell, case number 22 CR 007-087F, is accused of simple assault and simple battery. Both charges are in the family violence context. This allegedly occurred on October 20th, 2022. And Mr. Castell, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is going to be Ms. Wanda Gant. Any priors, Mr. Tucson?
Third arrest, 2012 DUI conviction. Before that was 06 controlled substance. That's it.
Thank you. Ms. Sari?
Yes, Your Honor. This incident took place at 8601 Roberts Drive in Atlanta. And this incident took place over the defendant requesting that the victim scratch his feet. The victim in the case, her name is Natalie Leacock, that's Leacock, and she was in the living room working on her clothing and designs when the defendant came in the room and asked her to scratch his feet while she was working. When the victim refused, he began pushing her, and eventually the victim's daughter came into the living room, saw this incident, she asked him to stop, and the defendant took off a belt and threatened to whoop the child. Your Honor, our office was able to speak with the victim. She stated that they do live together, but the defendant is not on the lease, so we are asking for a stay away. She did not want contact with the defendant, and she did say that the defendant has a drinking problem, and this wasn't the first incident. So the state's recommendation is a $3,000 surety bond. That's $1,000 on the simple assault family violence, because he did go in the kitchen and present a knife, $2,000 on the simple battery family violence, a stay away, 1-day anger awareness, no contact with the victim, and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons. Nothing further.
Thank you. Ms. Gant?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Reginald Castile strongly denies the allegations and he is presumed innocent. He is 34 years old. He's been in the Atlanta, Georgia area his entire life. He does have family here, but he does not have any children. He completed the 10th grade and he is currently employed as a furniture delivery driver. He has been in that position for 7 years full time. I am requesting a signature bond on Mr. Castile's behalf. We heard about his background, which is basically a remote driving offense. He does not have any convictions for violence. He does not want contact, therefore we are unopposed to any no contact and stay away provisions. And however, we are requesting a one-time law enforcement escort so that he may retrieve his belongings. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Miss Sari, do you know the age of the minor who was, I couldn't tell, I know the warrant was very long, but I couldn't tell if.
Your Honor, I do not know.
Yeah.
her age.
Okay. All right. On the simple assault is going to be 3,000. On the simple battery is going to be 7,000. It's going to be a $10,000 surety, signature bond through pretrial services. Mr. Castell, it's going to be a large bond amount, but today you can sign up for it, but you're going to have to comply with the conditions. If you fail to comply with the conditions, you will be arrested on a pretrial warrant and your bond will be converted to either a 10,000 surety or 10,000 cash bond only. Do you have any questions about the bond amount and the type?
You're talking to me.
No. Okay, these are the conditions. You are to have no further contact with Miss, I think it was Natalie or Natasha? Natalie?
Natalie, Your Honor.
No further contact with Natalie Leacock and her daughter. You're to stay 200 yards away from them. You cannot speak to them in person. You cannot speak to them through a phone or through a computer device, through a third party, or discuss them on social media. You are to stay away from 8601 Roberts Drive, Building 9. Actually, you're supposed to stay away from that entire apartment complex in Atlanta and Fulton County. I will not permit a one-time visit. If you have any personal belongings, I will allow for Miss Leacock to collect your belongings and leave them at the nearest police precinct for you to pick them up. All right. So Miss Sowry, if the Victim Advocates Division will get in touch with Miss Leacock to advise her that she would need to collect his belongings, or if he can identify a person to whom the belongings can be conveyed.
Yes, Your Honor. She did tell our office that someone had already collected his items, but I'll let her know.
Okay, so it appears that a family member's already picked up his belongings, so he will not be permitted to return.
Collect everything like my teeth.
Mr. Please remain silent.
I don't care. Do you understand? Given the nature of the charges, given the nature of the warrant that was written against you, I am actually surprised why this case is in misdemeanor court. This should be in felony court. So if you want to overstep your bounds, I would recommend to the solicitor's office to present this to the DA's and to see whether this can amount to a felony charge.
Yes, Judge.
Do you understand, Mr. Castell?
Yes, ma'am, I do. I'm sorry.
It's very, very important that you comply with the conditions. Otherwise, I don't have any problem converting this to a surety bond. As I was saying, no further contact. You are not permitted to be seen anywhere near them, and you do not communicate with Ms. Leacock and her daughter in any way, form, or manner. While you are out on bond, you will report to pretrial once a month. You're not allowed to consume any illegal drugs, and you're not to consume any alcohol, and you cannot possess any weapons and any firearms. You will be subject to random screens with the with the pretrial services for illegal drugs and or alcohol. While you're out on bond under the provisions of the family violence bond provision, I'm going to direct you to enroll and complete a 6-month domestic violence intervention program, which must be commenced within 30 days of your release. So you must start what we call an FVIP program. And that's a 6-month long program, and it's weekly classes, and you must do so at your own expense. You'll report to pretrial your begin date so that pretrial will know when you're supposed to conclude the program. I think that's it. And also within 30 days of being released, you must update the court with your new address. You will contact you will come to the courthouse at 160 Prior Street to the clerk's division and update your new address in writing. Do you understand, Mr. Castell?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Your Honor, if I may, I do have some concerns about my client's ability to afford the DVIP in light of the fact that he has to secure another residence, Your Honor.
Yes, I'm sure he'll manage.
Thank you, Your Honor.
It's a condition of his bond. It's a $10,000 bond. I'm sure he has sufficient incentive to make sure that he has sufficient funds, not only to get a new residence, but also to enroll in that program. My understanding was that he was going to live with a parent. Wasn't that correct?
That is not what I presented to the court, Your Honor. I stated that he doesn't want to have any contact.
Oh, I thought he was
believe
gonna
what's in
live
the
with someone
chat-
else. Oh, so, okay,
No.
that's fine, yeah.
I think what's in the chat is that a family member is picking up his items.
Oh, okay, but he does have family, so that's good.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, all right. Yes, that's
So
good. Yes,
that-
Tucson?
that's 7,000 on the simple battery and 3 on the simple assault, correct?
Yes,
All right.
thank you.
Good. Next, Your Honor, we have position number 7, Mr. Quindarius Johnson.
This is State versus Quindarius Deshaun Johnson, case number 22 CR 007-088D. Mr. Johnson's accused of battery, domestic violence from October 18th, 2022. Mr. Johnson, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Ms. Wanda Gant. Mr. Tucson, any prior speaks?
7 total. Last arrest was 2021. Cruelty in the second out of Paulding County. State might know if that's open. It doesn't show on the GCIC. He was arrested for terrorist threats. It was amended to disorderly conduct conviction. 2021, along with the probation violation. 2020 failed to appear. 2019 misdemeanor possession of marijuana. It was later dismissed. 2016 aggravated assault dismissed.
And what
And
county is the aggravated assault?
Houston County.
Houston spelled like Houston, got it.
Yes. I defer to you with the recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Tolle, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Judge. The state's bond recommendation is a $4,000 surety bond, no further contact with the victim, Kasia Rivera, and that's first name is spelled Kasia. Stay away from the incident location, 1980 Stanton Road in East Point, Georgia, a one-day anger awareness course and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons while out on bond. Judge, in this case, on October the 2nd of this year, the victim and the defendant, who was also her live-in boyfriend, were involved in a dispute. The defendant knocked her down and began kicking and punching her while she was on the floor.
Mr. Tolle, I'm so sorry to pause, but if you please forgive me. Courtroom 3 is ready with our signed interpreter case. Mr. Jordan or Miss Lewis, if you are hosting, could you please place the ASL interpreter and courtroom 3 in a breakout room? And Miss Gant will join the breakout room as soon as we're done with this case.
Your Honor, this is my case.
Even the sign interpreter case?
Yes, both.
Yes, that's what I said. You will join the breakout room as soon as we're done with this
After.
case. Okay.
Thank you for the clarification.
Your Honor, one quick second, Ms. Gant. Do you
Yes.
have positions 9, 10, 12, and 14? No, right?
No.
Okay.
That would be Ms. Kim.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure we didn't bump heads.
Okay, thank you. All right, so if the host will place ASL interpreter Rick and yeah, thank you. And Ms. Gant will join shortly, not yet. Okay, Mr. Tolle, again, sorry. I
That's
just want to get the thing moving. Thank you. Okay. All right, and you were saying about Ms. Riviera on October 2nd, she and her live-in boyfriend?
Yes, Judge. And also after he kicked and punched her while she was on the floor, the victim also stated that she got up and left the apartment and screamed for help. The defendant followed her and began to repeatedly slap her in the back of the neck. He then nudged her in her ribs and spit on her. The neighbors tried to stop him, but he wouldn't stop. Officers did notice lacerations to her neck along with substantial swelling on her head. And Judge, the state is concerned that this defendant does run the risk of reoffending, and he is a danger to the community, considering the convictions that he has for terroristic threats and acts and disorderly conduct. I did call Cobb County Solicitor General's office earlier, and they stated that these offenses were against different victims, which is rather concerning since he has a propensity to offend against a variety of victims. He also has arrests for aggravated assault and cruelty to children in the 3rd degree. He also runs the risk of intimidating this victim, considering the egregious facts of this case and the nature of the parties' relationships. And Judge, our office has been in contact with the victim, and we do anticipate that she will want contact. However, considering the egregious facts of this case, the state would object to that. Well, the state does not believe that is in their best interest. And
Excuse me, Your Honor. Those facts are
Ms.
wrong.
Rivera, stop.
Well, Judge, I was going to ask.
Yeah, no. I have some questions of you before I allow. So I control who gets to speak. All right, because someone told me I can, so I'm going to go with that. And no interruptions, Ms. Rivera. Thank you. Ms. Jolie, I had a question. When you began with your narrative, you mentioned October 2nd.
Yes.
And the warrant has stated October 18th. So do we have a different incident date?
Let me double check, Judge. That could be an error on my part. October 18th.
Okay, so this is a very recent incident then.
Yes, Judge.
Okay,
Yes.
and the warrant was issued by East Point. Am I right? Let me
That
just-
is correct, Judge.
Okay. Oh, Judge Rashida. Okay. And Judge Oliver, excuse me. And they are, according to the warrant, married.
Judge, I didn't see that they were married. They were just boyfriend and girlfriend, according to the incident report that I read, because there was a warrant.
Where did I see that? I thought I saw live-in spouse somewhere when I was reading it. Am I thinking of a different case? No, here's the warrant. Okay. Quindarius. It says live-in spouse. So based on your information, they're not married then?
That's correct, Judge. And our victim advocate did speak to the victim earlier, and she stated they had been in a relationship for 3 years.
I see.
But to our knowledge, they are not married.
Okay. Okay, right. Ms. Gant, if you have any comments, otherwise I'm ready to hear from the Ms. Rivera.
Your Honor, I'll go ahead and present. Mr. Quindarius Johnson is 24 years old. He has been in the Atlanta, Georgia area for 6 years. He is engaged to the complaining witness, Ms. Cassie Rivera, and they share a 5-month-old daughter. He informs me that he is the primary caretaker of the child. He states that he completed the 11th grade. He works as a mobile car detailer. He has been doing that for 11 years. And Your Honor, my client was recently diagnosed with a life-threatening illness. He states that he has an appointment on Monday. He needs to be there at 9 o'clock to discuss a treatment regimen for him. I do acknowledge my client's history. However, Your Honor, he strongly denies the allegations and he is presumed innocent. I would just bring to the court's attention, disorderly conduct and terroristic threats do not involve any physical violence, Your Honor. And again, he strongly denies these allegations. I'm requesting a signature bond on Mr. Johnson's behalf. I did receive a report for him from pretrial stating that he is recommended for a signature bond. We are opposed to the no contact and stay away orders as my client wants contact. I did have the occasion to speak to Ms. Rivera. She states that she wants contact as well, Your Honor. And regarding my client reoffending and being a danger to the community, we strongly believe that the state has not set forth any facts sufficient to satisfy that. And again, we're requesting the signature bond, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Rivera, you may unmute. And if you would like to comment on this case, you would need to be placed under oath. You need to lower your device. Okay. Would you like to comment?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And what is your current status with Mr. Johnson? Are you all married or engaged? Or
We're engaged.
Okay. So, and I heard that y'all been living together for 3 years?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So as I said, I've already read the warrant and this occurred, today's the 21st. So this occurred about 3 days ago.
Yes, Your Honor.
And apparently there was visible injuries observed by the officers.
Yes, Your Honor. So with that, I did inform the officers that we got into a wreck going on 2 weeks ago, and I was the one that got the most impact. We got hit on our right side. I was the passenger. He was the driver. I got hit. It was on the highway. I did inform the officer that these scratches on my neck were from the accident. And then it was one new abrasion, but that's only because that was never because he hit me like on my shoulder. I informed them where I got hit at. So that was never from the incident. Two, when they said that he threw me to the ground and kicked me, I never said that. I said during the process of us being in a physical altercation, I fell to the ground and hit my head. That's what I said. So as far as him kicking me, he never kicked me. He never kicked me at all. So that was false. And then it was one more thing that was false as well that I didn't, it was like towards the end of the report. Can you read that, please?
I don't have it.
Would
Okay.
you like for me to repeat it, or I mean, this is
Yes, ma'am. Repeat it, because after he threw me to the ground and kicked me.
Judge, would you like for me to repeat it?
Yes, please. It's just a couple of sentences.
Yes, Judge. So it stated, the incident report stated, she got up and left the apartment and she screamed for help. The defendant followed her and began to repeatedly slap her in the back of the neck. He then nudged her in her rib area and spit on her. The neighbors tried to stop him. So those were eyewitnesses at the scene, but he wouldn't stop. And then I did go on to state the injuries, the visible injuries that the officers did see on the victim.
Okay. Did the report list the witnesses?
Let's see, Judge. Not the names, but let me see. Actually, Judge, I believe it did. Bannon Johnson, Bohannon is the name, Bohanon.
Okay, so there are identifiable witnesses to this alleged incident.
Yes,
Okay.
Judge, Bohannon.
Thank you. All right. Yes, anything else, Ms. Rivera, you were saying?
Yeah, when he did nudge me, but he never nudged me in my rib cage. So that's the only false thing.
Do you agree that this incident occurred in the presence of other witnesses?
The last part where I got nudged, when I had left the apartment to go and call the police, that forward was viewed by witnesses. What happened in the household before that I had went outside was not visible by any witnesses.
Understood. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Rivera. You may mute your screen. All right. Anything else to add, Ms. Gant?
Nothing, nothing further, Your Honor, other than my client strongly denies the allegations.
Understood. Thank you. Bond is set at 3,500. It is a surety bond. Mr. Johnson, your bond is a surety bond, which means you have to go through a bonding company or pay for the bond out of your own pocket. Your next court date is going to be November 3rd, 2022 at 9 a.m. in courtroom G33 at the 160 Prior Street. If you do make bond, we will then send you notice for your next court date. The conditions of your bond are as follows: no further contact with Cassia Rivera, to stay away from the incident location. And that address, I believe, was 19A Stanton Road in East Point, Georgia. Did I get the correct address?
No, Judge, it's 1980.
1980 Stanton Road?
Yes, that's correct, Judge.
1980 Stanton Road in East Point, Georgia. If you make bond, you may go to that location one time only with a police officer to retrieve your belongings. But after that, you're not to contact Ms. Rivera in any way, form, or manner. I will allow for a third-party transfer of the child, but until further order of the court, you are not to contact Ms. Rivera until the bond order is amended. No alcohol, no drugs, and no weapons. Thank you.
Your Honor, next we have position number 10, Mr. Nicholas Martin. Hold on, man.
All right, Ms. Gant, Ms. Lewis, if you can give Ms. Gant a breakout invite, please, to go into the breakout room with the interpreter case.
Oh, I need to have a seat.
All right.
I'm on my way.
Ms. Kim, Mr. Tolley, what position number was that again?
10.
10, thank you.
Yes, Judge.
This is State versus Nicholas Paul Marcus, 22 CR 007-089F. Mr. Marcus is accused of criminal trespass and causing damage to property on August 28th, 2022. Mr. Marcus, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Ms. Kim. According to the rules of the jail, your mask must cover your mouth and your nose. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Marcus. All right. Mr. Tucson, any priors, please?
This is 10th arrest. Last was back in February, probation. He's on probation for burglary in the first degree, criminal attempt to commit burglary. Also another probation first degree. Those are out of Fulton. He got a lot of burglary, as you can see, enough.
All right.
So that's pretty much it. And some suspended license.
What do you mean by a lot of burglaries?
I mean, he got at least
Just
2
the years?
convictions.
Just give me the years.
You want me to give you the case numbers?
I saw the case numbers. You know what? I've got them. I'm sorry. I saw them. Thank you.
All right. Okay.
Okay. Mr. Tolley?
Yes, Judge, the state's bond recommendation is a $1,000 surety bond, and that is already set, and the state would like for that to remain as set. Stay away from the incident location, 1845 Sumter Street, Northwest Atlanta, Georgia, and no further contact with the victim, William Crossman, and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons while out. Judge, in this case, on October 28th of this year, around 3:31 a.m., police were dispatched to the incident location. Upon arrival, police spoke with the victim, who stated that a known white male in the neighborhood had terrorized, that was known for terrorizing people, came onto his porch. He banged on the door and stated, "The devil is here." The defendant then stomped out one of his plants, causing it to break. The victim then stated that he informed officers that the defendant lives 2 houses down, and he provided the officer with the address. And Judge, the state is concerned that this defendant runs the risk of reoffending due to the criminal trespass conviction that he has from 2020.
Thank you. Ms. Kim?
Yes, Your Honor, Mr. Marcus is 28 years old and he was born and raised here in Georgia. However, he does not have any employment and he graduated from high school. He has no one to actually bond him out at this point. So $1,000 will be like no bond for him. We would like to request for signature on bond. This happened about 2 months ago. And so it's kind of old, and I want to make sure that he does not go to that apartment complex, and he does not oppose to no further contact with the William Crossman. However, he needs a signature on bond. Thank you.
All right. Unfortunately, with his open cases and especially in Superior Court, Mr. Marcus does not qualify for a signature bond. He has 20 SC 174026, various felony charges, including burglary. And he has another case, 20 SC 174324. Those are also involving various charges, including burglary in the first degree. And with this recent arrest for another criminal trespassing, causing damage to property, involving other parties' personal real estate locations, the court is very concerned. Bond is set at $5,000. It is a surety bond. He is to have no further contact.
Please, don't do that. Don't do that.
You ain't gotta hit me.
I'm not gonna touch you. Just don't do that to my judge.
Bond is set at $5,000. And Ms. Sitole, could you give me the stay away location again, please?
Yes, Judge. 1845 Sumter, and that's SUMT as in Tom ER Street, Northwest Atlanta, Georgia.
All right. Mr. Marcus, you're to stay 500 yards away from that location. That's the length of 5 football fields. Presently, you do have no bond in the other cases I've just listed. So you're going to have to address each of these cases one by one. Your next court date is going to be November 3rd for this misdemeanor offense. Thank you.
Sorry, Your Honor, what was that bond amount?
5,000 surety.
Thank you. We're gonna go to the jail court's iPhone,
Okay, I see it.
and he has position number 11, Mr. Ray.
All right,
Actually, Mr. Ray is represented by Ms. Wanda Gant. So I was wondering if we can do other cases.
okay, let me see. Who is handling the jail court iPhone? Deputy, can you hear me?
Go ahead, Judge.
All right, yes, my name is Judge Lal, and I just want to advise you that we will address your case once your defense attorney is available. Her name is Wanda Gant, and as soon as she appears on the screen, we will resume with Mr. Quintavious Ray. And I would like to advise Mr. Ray to please remain silent. Don't say anything once we address your case. Let your attorney speak for you. Thank you. We will resume with Mr. Ray as soon as Ms. Gant appears. Thank you. All right, courtroom 2, who do we have, please?
Position number 12, Mr. Sean Spates.
Mr. Sean Spates, S-P-A-T-E-S, case number 22 CR 007-091G, is accused of battery causing substantial physical harm on July 23rd, 2020. Mr. Spates, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Ms. Kim. Mr. Tucson, any priors, please?
25 total. Resident of Margate, Florida. Last arrest-
Margate? Did you say Margate?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what the booking shows. Last arrest was in March, Cobb County. Ag assault on robbery, false imprisonment. I'm not sure if that's open.
Okay.
2016 FTA for forgery in the 4th. Possession of cocaine conviction. 2014. Marijuana conviction, 2014. Forgery in the 4th. 2014. 2012 felony probation. Another 2012 felony probation. Entering auto, theft by taking, trespass, possession of tools. 2010, those are convictions. 2010 simple battery and battery, those are non-process. Yeah, the 07 robbery that was dismissed. That's it.
Okay. And let me see, 2012, this one. Okay, got it. Thank you. Mr. Tolley?
Yes, Judge. The state's bond recommendation is a $5,000 surety bond. No further contact with the victim, LaKayla Peebles. Stay away from the incident location, 5401 Old National Highway, apartment 2317 in Atlanta, Georgia. Completion of a one-day anger awareness course and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons while out. Judge, in this case on July 23rd, 2020, the defendant repeatedly punched the victim in the face and slammed her on the floor, causing swelling to both of her eyes. And Judge, the state is concerned that this defendant does run the risk of reoffending due to the open cases that he currently has in Cobb County with an offense date of March 16th of 2022. Also, due to the 3 probation violations that he has in his history.
All right, this incident occurred on July 23rd, 2020. The warrant was issued on the same day, so it's been more than 2 years. Is the state alleging that the statute of limitations was temporarily suspended, hence extending the time?
Yes, Judge, that is correct.
All right. Ms. Kim?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Spates is actually, he is 31 years old, and actually 37 years old. He has been here in Georgia for 31 years, Your Honor. He has been in jail for like almost 7 months. Ever since from March 16, he has been detained in Cobb County. He was not able to go anywhere, and then he just got transferred from Cobb County to Fulton County yesterday, Your Honor. And he really, really misses his family. He has currently ankle monitor on his ankle. He's paying $300 a month just for that by his own pocket. And Your Honor, his family has to come up with all kinds of cash to barely bond him out from Cobb County. And there is no way that he's going to be able to afford any other bond at Fulton County as well. So we would like to request for a signature on bond since he's not going anywhere. This happened on July 23, 2020. He even have an ankle manager. He has 3 minor children that he has to suffer financially, 11, 9, and 7 years old, Your Honor. And also his business is a self-employment business that he has to sell online clothing. If he doesn't work, he doesn't get any money. So he has not been able to get any income for the last 7 months, Your Honor. He has some college credit, and we would like to request for a signature on bond. Thanks.
Understood. Thank you. Mr. Spades, your bond is going to be set at 2,500. It is a surety bond. No further contact with LaKayla Peebles, and to stay away from the entire complex at 5401 Old National Highway in, was it in East? No, in Atlanta, wasn't it?
Atlanta. Atlanta, Georgia, Judge.
Okay, it was in Atlanta. No alcohol, no drugs, no weapons. And Deputy, is Mr. Spade still equipped with the ankle monitor, or does the Sheriff's Office remove them pending his detention?
He's still,
Okay.
Your Honor. Yes,
Right.
ma'am.
So I'm not sure how the payment system for the ankle monitor proceeds. When he is currently detained. So if he is still detained at the Fulton County Jail, we will see him on November 3rd. Otherwise, if he makes bond, he must comply with the ankle monitoring process in order to make sure that he complies with this other, the bond in his other case. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think he wants to tell you the ankle monitor amount.
I'm sorry. Now it's about $2.99 a month, isn't it? Or is it gone up?
Yes, ma'am. $2 a month.
Yeah, and yeah, it's unfortunate, but that's another judge's ruling. That's not mine.
Your Honor, we have position number 14, Mr. Benson.
This is Latavia Vinson. Mr. Vinson, this is the incident from October 20th, 2022, case number 22 CR 0070928. You are accused of willful obstruction of an officer, operating a vehicle with an expired or no license on person, no insurance, and fleeing or attempting to elude a police officer. You have been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Ms. Kim. Mr. Toussaint, any priors?
22 total between Georgia and Illinois. On probation for suspended license out of Douglasville. That was as of July 28th. Says he's on parole in Illinois for sale consumption under 18. All right, let's see. All right, July, he was also arrested for possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, a felony first offender, misdemeanor possession of marijuana, 2021 suspended license conviction, 2021 shoplifting, giving false name, was a bind over out of Snellville. Last arrest in Illinois, 2018 domestic battery. It just says filed, not filed with the court.
Okay, so that was not a foul case, all right?
Yeah, before that one was the parole case that he might be on for drugs. That's from 2012. 2012 possession of a controlled substance, that was dismissed. 2009 controlled substance. Got an aggravated battery on the public peace. No, I'm sorry, public place. That was a conviction. That is from 2010. What else? Possession of a stolen vehicle from 2007. And larceny, those were dismissed. That's pretty much it.
Thank you. Ms. Kim, excuse me, Mr. Tolle?
Yes, Judge, the state's bond well, there's already a $3,200 surety bond already set, and the state would like for that to remain as set. For count 1, willful obstruction of a law enforcement officer, it's a $1,000 surety bond. For
Mhm.
count 2, expire of no license on person is $600. For count 3, and no insurance, $600 surety bond. And for count 4, fleeing or attempting to elude a police officer, $1,000 surety bond with conditions of no driving without a valid license, tag, or insurance. And Judge, on October 20th of this year, Officer Diaz Taylor attempted to conduct a traffic stop on a red sedan for having no insurance. The officer activated his blue lights and sirens, but the defendant refused to stop. Instead, the driver turned into an apartment complex while going around a vehicle that was turning into that complex in an attempt to flee and elude the officer. The driver stopped the vehicle, got out, and ran into a building where he lives with his girlfriend. Officer Fife assisted in getting the
if you're going through the warrant, yeah, I've already read it. So they released the passenger and they arrested Mr. Vincent.
That's correct, Judge.
Okay, and I did see his alleged responses to the officer on the warrant. So so you want me to keep the same bond set by the warrant, Judge?
That is correct, Judge.
Right. Ms. Kim, what do you
Yes,
think
Your
of the
Honor.
bond amount?
We would like to request for signature on bond or maximum $1,000 total. He does not have any funds right now. He cannot get out of the bond. He is 33 years old. He has been here in Georgia for 4 years, and he has 12 children, and that he has to financially support. He's been working as a salesperson at solar panels company, and he's been doing that for 1 year. And his education, he was educated up to 9th grade, Your Honor. We would like to request for signature on bond, and he does have a medical condition that he needs some attention as well. Thank you.
All right. Bond is set as follows. On the willful obstruction, it's 500. Expired or no license on person is going to be 500. No automobile insurance is going to be 500. And fleeing or attempting to elude a police officer is going to be 1,000. Total bond set is going to be 2,500. That's going to be a surety bond. Just one condition to the bond: no driving unless you have a valid driver's license, adequate insurance, and proper registration. I see that the vehicle was just bought, so please make sure that you have insurance and registration on the vehicle and that you have a valid driver's license before you get to drive the new wheels. Yes, Mr. Winson, if you'd like to say something, you will be doing so against the advice of counsel. Ms. Kim?
I would like to ask Mr. Vincent to stay silent. I'll call you to explain everything.
Okay, all right, that concludes the case. Thank you.
Your Honor, could you provide that breakdown one more time, please? Thank you.
Sure. The fleeing and attempting to elude a police officer is 1,000. The remaining 3 charges are 500 each. His next court date is November 3rd. It's a surety bond. No driving allowed.
Thank you, Your Honor.
No. Next case, officer, are we concluded with courtroom 2?
No, actually, do we have a Korean interpreter for Mr. Lim?
No, we were not able to get it. He said if we cannot find a Korean interpreter by 2 p.m., he was willing to waive a Korean interpreter.
Okay. Come on. Next, Your Honor, we have Mr. Lim.
Mr. Woo-Sik Lim, my name is Judge Law. Are you able to understand English?
Yes.
All right. If there is anything that any of us say on the Zoom that you do not understand, please raise your hand and simply say, I do not understand.
Okay, man.
Your case number is 22 CR 007-090D. This is a formally accused case, which is with the Fulton County State Court. You are formally charged and accused of 3 offenses. The first one is DUI, driving under the influence of alcohol per se. That means that the DUI charge is based upon a reading of the alcohol content in your bloodstream. pursuant to a breathalyzer test. The second charge is failure to maintain lane or improper lane change. That is a charge based on an alleged inability to maintain within the same lane of travel. The third charge is DUI, is an alternative charge, is DUI, driving under the influence of alcohol less safe. In other words, it is claimed that you were operating a moving motor vehicle while under the alleged influence of alcohol to the extent that it was less safe to drive. Do you understand, sir?
I understand that.
Thank you. You have a right to remain silent about the facts of the case. Anything you say about the facts or the allegations brought against you, your statements can be used against you, especially by the prosecutors who are listening to this case. You have a right to an attorney if you cannot afford one. Presently, you are represented by Ms. Kim with the Public Defender's Office. This is an incident that allegedly occurred. We have October 20th, 2022 and October 21st, 2022. Based upon my reading of the warrants, it appears that it started just before midnight and it passed into October 21st. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
6 total. 06 obstruction. As far as DUIs, 1994, 98 convictions, 1993 DUI NOLO. And he had one that was dismissed from 05.
Okay. So this is the fourth in a lifetime. Okay. Mr. Tolley?
Yes, Judge. The state's bond recommendation is for count 1, DUI per se, $2,000 surety bond. For count 2, failure to maintain lane, $500 surety bond. And for count 3, DUI less safe, $2,000 surety bond with conditions of no driving and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons while out on bond. And Judge, although the state is concerned that he does run the risk of reoffending because although his DUIs are over 20 years old, the fact that he has 3 consecutive DUIs in his history, it does show his propensity to reoffend. And Judge, on October 20th of this year, officers responded to a single car collision at the intersection of Bell Road and Homestead Trail in the city of Johns Creek. When the officer arrived, he noticed the vehicle was in the middle of the roundabout and noticed damage to the curb consistent with the defendant's vehicle, which indicated that he failed to maintain his lane. The officer saw the defendant sitting down on the curb. He asked if he had been drinking, but the defendant said he had not. Once the officer asked him to stand, he noticed the defendant was unsteady on his feet, stumbled as he walked. He had glassy eyes, slurred speech, and the smell of alcoholic beverage coming from his breath. The officer performed a field sobriety test and the defendant blew into the alcohol sensor. And based on the results, he was arrested.
Ms. Kim?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Leem is actually, he has been here in Georgia for about 20 years, Your Honor, and he has family members, 2 children and wife and sister here in Georgia. He has a strong ties to the community. He's working as a CPA at consulting firm, and he also has a bachelor's degree as well. We would like to request for definitely sure signature on bond for that failure to maintain, which is a traffic violation. And we would like to request for $1,000 maximum surety bond for each charge. Thank you.
All right. I just like to clarify one thing. The per se charge, is that based on the alcohol sensor reading or is that based on the state administered breathalyzer test, Mr. Tolley?
The state administered, I think that's based on the alcohol sensor, Judge.
Okay, so the alcohol sensor is not sufficient for a per se charge. Alcohol sensor is just a field sobriety device that is used just to determine the presence of alcohol. All right, so this is my bond as follows. On the failure to maintain lane is a 500 surety. On the DUI under the influence of alcohol less safe, that's a $2,000 surety. And on the DUI under the influence of alcohol per se, that's going to be a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial services. Total bond is going to be $4,500 split bond. Next court date is going to be November 3rd, unless Mr. Lim makes bond. As part of the bond requires him to report to pretrial services. He will report to pretrial once a month. He will not consume any illegal drugs and no alcohol. Mr. Lim, you will also be subject to random screens by the Fulton County Pretrial Services for Alcohol. You're not allowed to drink any alcohol, and please be sure, otherwise you run the risk of having your bond revoked. Do you understand me so far?
I understand.
Okay, so you will be paying on a $2,500 surety bond, and you will sign up for the remainder of the 2,000. No driving unless you have a valid permit to drive by the Department of Driver Services. If you do not qualify for the services of the Public Defender's Office, which I have a feeling that you don't, Ms. Kim, would I be correct?
Yes, I believe so too.
All right. Mr. Lim, you will have to hire your own private attorney.
Your Honor, regarding the, I would like to clarify about the no driving part. Is it if he gets a limited permit from the DDS, can
Yes.
he drive for
Yes.
attorney work? Okay.
Well, based on my experience as an administrative law judge, if the police officer in the Department of Driver Services case allows him to continue driving with a limited permit, that's one way. But with his prior DUIs, I'm going to have to leave that up to the administrative court. So that's why it's very important, Mr. Lim, that you hire a private attorney to maintain your driving privileges, because that's the only way you're going to drive. If you don't have those driving privileges, then you cannot drive. And please understand, 30 days from today, your driver's license will be suspended. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That's per judge.
Project. Next court date is November 3rd, unless he makes bond. Okay, Ms. Austin Norris, we good in courtroom 2?
We're good in courtroom 2, except for in South Annex, I have the family members of position number 15.
On position 11.
We have family members for position 11,
No, position 15.
15. And and Cassandra Williams is in the South Annex, correct?
Correct.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, let's hold on that. I'm going to position Ms. Gant, is she available? Ms. Gant. All right, Ms. Kim,
Yes,
do
Your
you
Honor.
represent Ms. Williams?
I think Ms. Gann was about to come in.
Yes, I'm available, Your Honor.
All right. Okay. All right, Ms. Gant, we are going to position we're going to position Quintavious Ray at the jail court iPhone. Do you see him?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. This is a jail court iPhone. We are addressing Quintavious Ray. The solicitor's office has advised that the court is waiving sounding on the charge and not making any reference to the charge. Deputy at jail court iPhone, can the defendant hear me?
Yeah.
All right. Mr. Ray, can you say 1, 2, 3 so I can hear you?
1, 2, 3.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. Mr. Ray, you have a right to remain silent. Anything you say about the facts of the case, your statements can and will be used against you. You have a right to an attorney, and representing you is Ms. Wanda Gant. Ms. Gant, you have spoken to Mr. Ray. Have you advised him of the charge brought against him?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. This is allegedly from October 19th, 2022. And any priors, Mr. Tucson?
I have no idea. He wasn't on my pull sheet.
All right. This is case 22 CR 0070958. Ms. Satoli, do you have Mr. Ray's priors with caution that the court has directed no reference to any charges similar to the one today?
Well, Judge, for the record, the state would object to waiving the sounding of the charges and the facts of the case.
Noted. The state is more than free to reference the facts of the case without making any reference that would indicate what type of charge it is. But just for the solicitor's information, The judge has also read the entire warrant and any other documents filed with this case. So I'm somewhat familiar with the case. I just need to know his GCIC, if you have it.
Yes, Judge, I do.
And your bond recommendation, please.
Yes, Judge, a total of 4 cycles. He has an arrest for armed robbery and hijacking a motor vehicle. He has an open case for aggravated assault with an offense date of March 17th of 2020. And he also has a 2020 failure to appear. And the state's bond recommendation is a $500 surety bond. A sexual deviance.
Yeah, just say SDET.
Okay, $500 surety bond, completion of an SDET, and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons while out.
Okay, and I'm reading you correctly, 500 surety bond.
Correct, Judge.
Okay, Ms. Gant, any objection to a 500 surety bond?
Your Honor, we object. Mr. Ray does not have the ability to pay anything toward bond. He has been in custody for 3 years. There's no way he will be able to pay anything toward that bond. He strongly denies the allegations, and we are opposed to the SDET as there are no prior arrest or convictions, Your Honor.
500 surety bond to stay away from the incident location. No alcohol, no drugs, no weapons. Next court date is November 3rd. Thank you.
Your Honor.
Yes.
Regarding the stay away, he is in custody and it's alleged to have occurred in custody.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. Sorry. I'm so sorry. Okay. I'm sorry, Ms. Gant. I start reading multiple cases and I get totally.
Understood.
All right. So it's a sign of old age. So you are free to correct me anytime. Thank you. All right.
And Your Honor, if I may, I just wanted to clarify something for the record. I understand that the court has stated that you have read the warrant. You are aware of the facts of the case. However, that is not creating a record for the court or for just the general record of what is happening in these proceedings.
Understood. And the court respectfully disagrees with that assessment, but I'm staying with my ruling. No reference to any sensitively related charges. Okay, 500 surety bond, and next case, please.
Position number 15 here at the South Annex, Your Honor.
We are going to 15, but I have a signed interpreter case, and I do know that we have folks in courtroom 2 who are here in support for Ms. Williams. So let me get to courtroom 2 first. This is my signed interpreter case, and I'm sorry, Miss Gant, what position number was that case?
Position 1.
Okay. This is State versus Mark Burke. Oh, well, first of all, Rick, what's your last name, please?
Yes, Your Honor. My name is Richard Hafner. The last name is spelled Haff as in Frank, N as in Nancy, ER.
Thank you, Mr. Hafner.
My pleasure.
Mr. Hafner, will you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear and affirm that the translation you provide through sign interpretation will be a true and accurate translation with no changes or embellishments?
I do.
Thank you, Mr. Hafner. All right, this is State versus Mark Burke. And Mr. Burke, can you see Mr. Burke in courtroom 2, Mr. Hafner?
Yes, Your Honor, I can.
All right, Mr. Burke, can you see Mr. Hafner, our sign interpreter, on the screen?
Yes, Your Honor.
Good. This is State versus Mark Burke, case number 22 CR 007067D. Mr. Burke.
Your Honor.
That okay?
Mr. Burke had asked the jailer to
remove
the handcuffs so he could sign easier. Please proceed, Your Honor.
All right. He is charged with simple battery allegedly occurring on October 19, 2022. He has a right to remain silent about the facts of the case. So if he signs any information, that must be repeated to the court. He's cautioned that anything that he states to the court during these proceedings, those statements can and will be used against him. So it's recommended that if he has anything to ask, that he does so to his attorney directly. He has a right to an attorney. If he cannot afford one, Ms. Gant will be available to represent him. I am going to ask our pretrial officer for whether he has a criminal history record. Mr. Tucson?
32 total. Last arrest was 2013 November, simple battery family violence. I think that was the one that was upgraded to a felony. And it was a conviction. 14 SC 125005. They may have reduced it back to a misdemeanor, not sure. 2013.
That was in 2014. So anything more recent?
No.
Oh. Ms. Sari, thank you, Mr. Tucson. Ms. Sari, I'm just looking at his priors. I don't have anything since 2014. I don't see any deals. Let me see.
There is a charge or a conviction, Your Honor, that the state is extremely concerned about. However, I will not sound
Thank you.
that conviction, but I would like the record to be clear and state that the state is objecting to waiving the sound.
Can you put in the chat to me? Because do we have a CWEC conviction, Mr. Tucson?
Let me see.
I didn't see anything in from my end. So if we have a CWEC charge or conviction, or you can put in the chat to me, Ms. Sari.
Yes, Your Honor, I'm sending that to you now.
I've got
I'm
it.
not sure
What year was that?
It was in 2000.
Okay.
And Your Honor, again, the state is objecting to waiving sound of that guilty conviction.
Understood.
Your Honor, this incident took place at 1060 Washington Heights in Atlanta. The victim in this case, who is the defendant's sister, her name is Vanessa Bean, B-E-A-N. Officers responded to this location regarding a physical dispute. They spoke with the victim, who stated that she and the defendant and a few other siblings were cleaning their mother's homes. And the defendant got upset for some apparent reason. He put on gloves, grabbed her by the neck from behind and threw her to the ground. Your Honor, we were able to speak with the victim, who stated that this defendant has been very aggressive towards their family members. As we've heard from pretrial, he does have family violence convictions in his history, as well as he does have a false imprisonment guilty conviction in 2008. Your Honor, the victim also stated that this is the defendant's residence, so we are not asking for a stay away. We are asking for a $3,000 cash bond, no contact with the victim, and to stay away from her address, and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons.
Okay. Ms. Gant?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Mark Burks is 54 years old and has been in the Atlanta, Georgia area for 14 years. He recently lost his mother, and the only remaining family members are a brother and an aunt. Neither is available to assist him with bond. Mr. Burks completed high school. He is hearing impaired and has been so since birth. He also has not worked anywhere since 2001. He does not have the means to pay anything toward bond. While I acknowledge my client's history, it is a remote history, Your Honor. He wants contact with his sister. However, I was unable to reach her, and we know her position from the state. Therefore, on Mr. Burke's behalf, I am requesting a signature bond as he is recommended, or in the alternative, a bond of no more than $1,000 surety. And again, he wants contact, however, we will defer to the court's ruling. Thank you.
Thank you. Bond set at 1,500. It is a surety bond. No further contact with Vanessa Bean. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons, and no firearms. Next court date is November 3rd. And if he makes bond, then we will send his next court date to his address at the Washington Heights Terrace location. Thank you.
And Your Honor, if I may, if we may make clear to Mr. Burks that he may return to that 1060 Washington Heights Terrace address.
Mr. Hefner, please let Mr. Burke know that if he makes bond, he may return to the house at 1060, I think it was 1060 Washington Heights Terrace in Northwest Atlanta. However, he must stay 200 yards away from Vanessa Bean. He cannot try to reach out and contact her in any way, form, or manner. Does Mr. Burke have any questions about his bond? All right, he's.
So I can get out and go home. And when I get out, I can go to my place, right? Or do I have to go to another place, like an apartment? Because I know I can't see my sister, and I want to make sure that where it is that I can go and stay. Because my family gets into trouble, and I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to be in the middle of anything.
Okay. He can return home. Just let him know that he's able to return home once he bonds out. And I do apologize for interrupting Judge Law.
Oh, you did. Any other questions?
Your Honor, I would just like to state on the record that 2000 conviction did involve ag assault.
Objection, Your Honor. Your Honor has ruled.
Your Honor, this is not going to affect your ruling. I am just making the record clear.
Understood.
The state. It does involve ag assault and robbery. Nothing further, Judge.
And I did take that into consideration. Thank you for the information.
Yes, Your Honor.
And that's it. That's all I have to say about this.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you. Officer, we are done with Mr. Burke's case. I'm moving on to Ms. Williams. Mr. Hefner, thank you very much. You are free to go or free to stay and watch the scintillating process.
It is. And, but I might have to catch up on it later.
All right. You have a great weekend. Thank you. All right.
Your Honor, what was that bond amount for Mr. Burke? I'm sorry, I was talking to one of my coworkers.
1,500 surety bond. He has to pay to bond out through a bonding company or out of his own pocket.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, Miss Williams at South Annex. South Annex, how many folks do we have to address in that courtroom?
I have two, Your Honor. Position 15, Ms. Williams, and position number 5.
Okay, this is the announcement to both the individuals in South Annex. My name is Judge Law. We'll be addressing each of your cases on a one-on-one basis. Please remember that you have a right to remain silent. Anything you say during the course of this Zoom proceeding, your statements can and will be used against you. You have a right to an attorney, and representing you will be either the attorney from the Public Defender's Office or the Conflict Defense List. We are addressing Cassandra LaRae Williams, 22 CR 007-093Y. Ms. Williams is accused of theft of services from October 9th, 2022. Miss Williams, your attorney will be Miss Wanda Gant. And
Will be-
I see there are 3 individuals in courtroom 2 who would like to speak. I would only address one person, so they need to select among the 3 of them who's that one person.
It's gonna be her mother, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Okay, Mr. Tucson, any priors on Miss Williams?
No,
Okay, Ms. Satole, any objection to a signature bond and to stay away from the location?
No objection to a signature bond, Judge. The state's bond recommendation is a $2,500 signature bond, and we would like for you to follow that recommendation. And also for the facts of the case, on October 9th of this year, the defendant entered the New Orleans Creole Cuisine restaurant, sat down and ordered $71.87 worth of oysters from the menu. And after eating 3 oysters, she decided that she didn't like the taste and refused to pay. She then walked out.
All right, thank you. Bond is set at $1,000. It's a signature bond through pretrial services. Unfortunately, Ms. Williams, you cannot return to that restaurant at 131 Walker Street in Southwest Atlanta. Your next court date is November 3rd. I'm sorry, your next court date will be sent to you to your address. And I'm trying to remember whether she was local or from out of town.
He's local, Your Honor.
Local, Mulberry Road. Okay. So Miss Williams, you can sign up for your bond. You're just required to stay away from the restaurant, and you must report to pretrial once a month. And you need to just make sure that you come back to court when we send you a notice in the mail. Do you have any questions? Okay, thank you.
Your Honor, is that through the jail or pretrial?
Pretrial.
Thank you. Next is position number 5.
Ashley Foltz is accused of simple battery domestic violence in 22 CR 007-097C, allegedly occurring on October 19, 2022. Ms. Foltz is the cross defendant to the other case that we addressed with Sidney Johnson, in which he received a signature bond through pretrial, and he has to have no contact with Ashley and to stay away from the Glen Street location. Ms. Foltz, you have been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is Ms. Gant. Any priors with Ms. Foltz? Mr. Tucson, I don't.
this is I think it's a 4th arrest. Yeah.
Any DV or violence matters?
No.
All right. Ms. Sari, do you have any objection to a similar bond being set?
Your Honor, we would, the state would request a $2,000 surety bond in this case. But I do understand you have already ruled $2,500 SOB. We would also like to include no contact with the cross defendant and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons.
Agreed, thank you. Ms. Foltz, your bond is going to be set at $2,500 signature bond through pretrial services. And just like the prosecutor recommended, you are to have no contact with Sidney Johnson. You are to stay 200 yards away from him. You do not communicate with him in any way, form, or manner. Do you live at the Glen Street location?
Yes.
All right, you can return to the Glen Street location, but you must make sure you do not try to communicate with them in any way, form, or manner, including social media. Do they share children, Ms. Gant? I can't recall.
Your Honor, she is currently 5 months pregnant. They share that child, but she has 2 additional children that they do not share.
Okay. So if Mr. Johnson wants to see his child eventually, he would need to go through legitimation court. Do you understand? He would need to go through legitimation court, get a court order establishing visitation and custody. That is the legal process in which a non-custodial parent can get visitation and custody, because currently you are the custodial parent. Understood?
Understood.
And during the course of a legitimation action, if the court decides, they can also establish support arrangements. All right. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons and no firearms. You must report to pretrial once a month. The only way the no contact provision can be lifted is if it's amended by a court order. That's the only way. Thank you.
Thank you,
Oh,
Judge.
right.
That'll be all for stop and Your Honor. May we be excused?
Yes, thank you. I'm just going to go over the calendar.
I got a question.
Yeah.
What happened with 13?
I was about to make an
Cause I
announcement.
don't have this file, cause you wasn't on
Mister.
the full sheet.
I was about to make an announcement on that,
Oh.
May, Your Honor.
Yes, go ahead.
So on that case, there was a little bit of confusion on that one, and my apologies. The clerk tried to alert me to it and I missed it. That is going to the SAP calendar. We'd asked it be set on the November 3rd SAP calendar. He has already received a bond and his case went to first appearance in municipal court.
Okay, thank you. Marks Tankavicus. I didn't think I would have to pronounce that. Okay. Position 13 is reset to SAP November 3rd, 9 a.m. He made bond, so it's actually further noticed. I was thinking about it as I was announcing it, so.
I didn't see that he had made bond, but if Your Honor stated he has, then
I don't know.
we're fine with that.
Oh, I'm sorry. You said he had already had his initial appearance with municipal court.
Correct.
Let me see.
But I'm not showing any bond in the
Okay,
jail system.
let's just put him on November 3rd, and then we will, if he's made bond, then it's just further notice for trial. Okay,
Thank you, Your Honor.
all right.
So Judge, do we need to do bonds for him, or you just gonna let it go to the November?
He already has bonds that were set by municipal court. He's actually on a $2,250 surety bond for the total.
Yeah, he's got 7 charges and. All right, I see 3,500, so, let me see. 1, 2, 3.
I know some of the charges were NOD'd, are going to be NOD'd.
Okay, so. Which charges have you NOD'd?
So the charges that are going to be an NOD, let me pull those up. Of course, just as I say that, let me pull those up in our attorney manager. Are the 2 failure to maintain lane charges. Are going to be, an NOD will be filed today on those charges.
Okay.
Which then eliminates $250 signature bonds. So the bonds that so that he has $2,000 of surety bonds. The remaining are signature bonds, except for, I take it back. He has a surety bond on the DUI, a surety bond on the reckless driving, and a surety bond on the fleeing and eluding. So the total amount of surety bonds are $2,000.
Okay.
The remaining bonds are signature bonds.
Okay, Miss Grace, I will go ahead and list the bonds according to the calendar, okay?
Thank you.
On the DUI, it's $1,000 surety bond. Driving while license suspended or revoked is $250. Reckless driving is $500. These are all surety bonds. Failure to maintain lane or improper lane change is $250. Fleeing or attempting to elude a police officer is $500. Possession of an open alcohol container is $250. The original charge was driving in an emergency lane. I believe the accusation has amended it to driving within a gore or a barrier. Is that correct? Ms.
That is
Bell?
correct, Your Honor.
Okay, and that's going to be 250. So those are all surety bonds. That's, and his next court date is November 3rd. All right. Okay. Just to
Thank
go
you,
down the
Judge.
calendar, please. Position 1, Mark Burke is 1,500 surety, reset date November 3rd. We will need a sign interpreter for that calendar for Mr. Burke. Position 2, Carter is a signature, 2,000 signature bond through pre-trial for the notice. Position 3 is a $10,000 signature bond through pre-trial for the notice. We'll need a new court, we'll need a new address from him. Position 4, Perel is a $2,000 signature bond through pre-trial for the notice. Position 5, Fulch is a 2,500 signature bond through pre-trial for the notice. 6, Heron is a $3,000 signature bond through pre-trial for the notice and represented by private attorney. Position 7 is a 3,500 surety bond for the notice to November 3rd. Position 8, Johnson's a 2,500 signature bond through pre-trial for the notice. Position 9, Mr. Lim is a 4,500 split bond for the notice to November 3rd. 5, Marcus is a $5,000 surety bond, reset November 3rd. Position 11, Ray is a 500 surety bond, reset date November 3rd. Position 12, Spates is a 2,500 surety bond, reset November 3rd. Position 13, Mark Stankavius. I didn't add it up. Somebody want to do that for me? 1, 2, 2,500. Do I have 3,000 total? Is that correct? 3,000 surety bond? Yeah. Nobody's disagreeing with me, so I'm going to go with that. Okay. Position 14, Vincent's a 2,500 surety bond, reset date November 3rd. 15 is a 2,000, excuse me, it was a 1,000 signature bond through pre-trial for the notice. We good?
Yes.
Okay. All right, everyone. You all have a great weekend. I'll see some of you tomorrow. Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.